The midnight game is not a game at all, though that is how it has been presented to the curious and the reckless. Its supposed origins trace back centuries to pagan rituals designed not for entertainment, but for punishment. Transgressors of sacred laws were said to be forced into a solitary challenge, to walk their homes in silence through the darkest hours of night, pursued by a presence they had invited themselves. If they endured until dawn, they survived, though never unchanged. If they failed, their souls were marked forever. Over time, this ritual was forgotten by most, buried beneath layers of folklore and whispered warnings. Yet, in recent decades, it returned in the form of an urban legend, a challenge passed from person to person on internet forums, whispered between teenagers at sleepovers, and dared among friends who wanted to prove their bravery. It became known as the Midnight Game. The rules are precise and chilling in their detail. They are not the kind of vague instructions found in most party tricks or ghost stories. They are exact, as though transcribed from something older, something sacred, something dangerous. And perhaps that is why so many have claimed that once they played, they were never truly alone again. It always begins the same way. The clock must strike midnight, not a minute before, not a minute after. Participants prepare hours in advance, collecting what they need: a slip of paper, a pen, a candle, matches, salt, and a single drop of their own blood. The paper bears a name, the full name of the person who dares to play. The blood stains the paper, sealing it in something that feels more binding than ink. The candle must be lit. The lights must be turned off. The most unsettling step is the knocking. A closed door becomes the threshold. The participant stands before it with the candle burning faintly in hand and knocks exactly 22 times. The final knock must land as the clock strikes 12. At that moment, the door must be opened and then closed. In that instant, it is said the Midnight Man enters. From that point on, the player is not alone in their house. The objective sounds simple. Walk in darkness, candle in hand, until 3:33 in the morning. If the candle goes out, it must be relit within 10 seconds. If it cannot be, the player must surround themselves in a circle of salt, a fragile barrier said to keep the Midnight Man at bay. At first, most who claim to have played describe only subtle disturbances. A draft where no window is open, a shadow moving at the edge of vision, a flicker in the candle's flame as though stirred by invisible breath. The brave ones dismiss it, convincing themselves it is only their imagination, primed by the ritual's theatrics. But the fear grows as minutes pass. The silence becomes heavy, oppressive. Each creak of floorboards or whisper of wind against glass feels deliberate. Some participants have reported faint scratching along the walls, like fingernails dragging slowly through the plaster. Others recall hearing soft tapping on windows, though their houses stood in darkness, curtains drawn, no one outside. More unsettling are the whispers, a voice too faint to understand, but undeniably present, brushing against the ear as though spoken inches away. Some swear they heard their names called from empty rooms. And the candle, always the candle. When it sputters or dims, hearts pound in terror. For the rules are clear. The flame is the only thing keeping the midnight man from seizing them outright. If it goes out and remains so for too long, the consequences are irreversible. The early hours are filled with dread that builds like a slow, tightening rope. What begins as superstition feels increasingly like survival. There are those who claim they saw him, not clearly, not in the light, but in the periphery of darkness. A tall figure, blacker than shadow, impossible to define. His shape shifts between the outlines of a man and something less human, elongated, unnatural. One account, shared on an obscure forum, told of a young man whose candle died twice in quick succession. He struck his lighter frantically, but in the brief flash, he glimpsed something standing at the end of the hallway, something towering, its form hunched, as though too large for the space, its eyes glinting faintly with a reflection not of flame, but of hunger. The boy claimed he dove into a salt circle just in time and remained there paralyzed for the rest of the night. Others describe claw marks that appeared on their arms and legs without warning, thin red scratches burning on the skin. Some report finding them only in the morning, as though the midnight man had reached for them in the dark, but could not claim them fully. What is most terrifying are the tales of those who fail to follow the rules. There are stories, perhaps exaggerations, perhaps not, of participants who let their candles die, who forgot the salt, who dared to mock the ritual. They spoke afterward of overwhelming hallucinations, corridors dripping with blood, the sound of screams from unseen mouths, the sensation of being dragged into suffocating blackness. Most who experience these visions never play again. Some never speak of it at all. The game lasts just over 3 hours, but those hours stretch into eternity. For participants, every second feels like a battle to endure the unseen presence pressing closer and closer. There are long stretches of silence, broken only by footsteps that do not belong to the player. There are moments when the candle seems to dim, as though a breath had been exhaled against it, yet no one is near. The feeling of being followed grows unbearable. Some survivors describe the sensation of icy fingers brushing against their skin, or the weight of something unseen pressing on their shoulders. One woman claimed she heard her own voice whispering her name from the darkness, though she had not spoken aloud in hours. The terror builds as the hours crawl by, with the knowledge that the midnight man does not tire, does not falter. He hunts relentlessly, pushing fear to its breaking point. It is said that this is his purpose, to drag the human mind into such terror that it fractures, to mark the soul so it is never whole again. Those who make it to 3:33 a.m. say the ending is sudden, almost anticlimactic. The pressure lifts, the silence becomes natural again, the candle steadies, and the atmosphere shifts. But for many, the relief is poisoned by something worse, the sense that the midnight man never truly left. It is not just the ritual itself that terrifies those who have played. It is what lingers afterward. Some claim to waken the night to whispers in their room. Others see fleeting shadows at the edges of their homes weeks later. Pets behave strangely, barking or hissing at empty corners. Candles flicker with no draft, and doors creak open when no one has touched them. The midnight game does not seem to end, some say. The ritual may close, but the invitation has already been extended. Skeptics dismiss these stories as exaggeration, as tricks of the mind amplified by fear. Yet the consistency of the accounts is chilling. From scattered locations across the world, different people report the same sensations, the same shadows, the same aftermath. And then there are the warnings. Survivors of the game often tell others never to play. They insist it is not worth the risk. But as with all forbidden things, curiosity has a way of drawing in the next participant. Perhaps the most unsettling truth of all is this: the midnight game thrives because it spreads. Each person who hears of it carries the knowledge forward, and each person who dares to play may be inviting something they will never be rid of. So if you are tempted, if you find yourself with candle, paper, and salt, remember this: it is not a game, it is a summoning. And once you open the door, you may never close it again. If you think this story is over, think again. Darkness doesn't end, it waits, and the next one might be closer than you think. Subscribe before it finds you first.